In the eyes of James' mother, a noble woman, born into the upper class, the happiness of an only son is sacred. She is willing to give up everything to preserve. But ironically, the girl that James loves is not ideal model mother James wanted. Ly Tu Diep, a widow who has been through a previous marriage, bearing the scars of time and public opinion, come into life. James is a challenge, with the conservatism of a mother who values reputatio and traditio. Ly Tu Diep, she is not worthy to die. Ly's I first met, Mother Diep's gaze was cold as morning dew. Oh, words needed. A gentle word is enough to make Ly Tu Diep understand that the mother's heart is not ready to receive her. Unspoken words, probing glances and polite but distant nods, all like little knife cuts, cut into the heart of the girl with the past. The pervert stood between his mother and the girl he loved. Feel choked. I know that with Mother Ly Tu Diep, you are a stranger and I bring worries. Is she kind enough to truly love him? Whether does she have a past that brings his family into disrepute? Whether a woman like her can bring happiness to a famous CEO on the way to success. But life has unexpected moments. Once, James's mother suddenly fell ill one rainy afternoon. When James was on business, the first person to arrive at the hospital was not a relative, a maid, but Tu Diep. She carried a bag of medicine, holding Theo's forgotten coat, carefully cover with blanket, call doctor, and sit by bed all night, without a word of complaint. The next morning, James' mother woke up, silently watching the girl pour water herself, gently wipe her forehead. Ly's eyes had no resentment, only the kindness of someone who sees her as a relative. For the first time, she felt her heart waver. The first time she wondered, a girl who was hurt, but still live a decent life like this, do not deserve to be loved, a guy. And then there I write to precious words uttered, out at a fancy party, or in a lavish engagement ceremony, but on a windy afternoon, when all three people sat at the small tea table in the back garden, James' mother quietly opened the ancient wooden box and took out the necklace that has been passed down through 3 generations. Wear round neck to kill. She is no longer an outsider, she said. Eyes shine with warmth. James chose me, and I believe he was right. James was silent, but his hand tightly held Ly Tu Diep's hand. In that gentle afternoon light, all storms have temporarily calmed down. Human values. Story. Just the confrontation between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, but a journey of healing faith. It raises a question. Is happiness only for the penniless? Ever stumbled? The answer is no. True happiness belongs to those who dare to love after a breakup, dare to believe after hurt, and dare to open up even though the past has been broke. Ly Tu Diep, even though she had been married before, but with sincere love and precious personality, she rewrote her own story. To erase the past, but to prove that the past does not define the future. Mother. If mother saw Ly Tu Diep through the eyes of an outsider, mom will only see her past. But if you would look with your heart the way I did, mom, you will see she is the best woman you have ever met. James' mother sat silently at the tea table. Face still retains its inherent seriousness. She said nothing, just lightly touched the glass of warm water, waiting for James to continue. How James stands there, with the appearance of a successful businessman, but trying my best to protect my true love. Mom, do you know the day my company's capital was withdrawn? Everyone turned their backs and only she remained. Complaints, no material demands. Just cook rice every day and bring it to my children, rain or shine. Mom. The day the sick child was hospitalized in the middle of the night, the first person to run over was Ly's, not a friend. Colleague. She is the mother I thought was weak. Turns out to be the strongest." His voice dropped with emotion. "I know you may not accept her past, but I hope you don't deny her present and the love she has for her child. I don't need a perfect wife. I need someone who knows how to love and go through the storm with me. And I believe that only Ly Tu Diep is such a person." I knew in that moment. Mother's eyes began to red. Is it because her heart is wavering? Or because she saw the image of the young woman Kier? Ly Tu Diep looks like her in her younger years. Also loved regardless, also suffered a lot of pie. She did not answer immediately, just quietly left the tea table. But the next day, she was the one who cooked a small meal and invite the Leaves to dinner. And in that meal, the first time she didn't call her back Ms. Ly Tu Diep, but it's Ly Tu Diep, eat a little more. That afternoon when James went out to meet a partner, his mother gently called Tu Diep to the living room. The room is not big, but so quiet that you can hear the wind blowing through the curtains. Ly Tu Diep sat down, his hands still shaking slightly. She was never completely comfortable with this woman, a noble mother whose eyes can read people's hearts. "Ly Tu Diep, I have something to ask you." She spoke in a voice that was not as harsh as the first time we met. Ly Tu Diep nodded and bowed politely. "Why do you stay with the match when you know it could cost you everything?" Ly Tu Diep looked up with a bit of surprise in his eyes, but then calmed down. She replied softly as if confiding. "I for you. Losing everything is not as scary as losing the one you love. I have a past, I do not deny it. But since the day I met you, I learned to trust, how to love, how to wait. He is the first. Teach children that they deserve to be loved." Once again a moment of silence passed. James' mother looked deep into those eyes, clear, steady, and undeviating. She felt the pain that the leaf had carried, but also saw the light she was keeping for James. "That day when I knew I had been married, I thought I could find someone better tonight. But the day you cooked porridge for me when I was sick, wipe your hands for me without a word of complaint, I begin to understand that not everyone has your heart." Ly Tu Diep was silent. She doesn't think she remembers what she does. She never expected to be recognized. "Dean is my only so. It is not easy to trust who will take care of it when we are gone, but now I want to believe." She walked over and opened the small drawer, took out the heirloom necklace passed down from grandmother. "This bracelet was given to me by my mother-in-law when I became a daughter-in-law. Today I give it back to you not because you are perfect, but because you are brave and sincere." Her hands shook slightly as she put it around Ly Tu Diep's neck, but her eyes were no longer suspicious, only a mother's gaze. "Believe in son's choice, and believe in the heart of a woman who has broken her marriage, but never give up love." Just then the door opened. James walked in and saw the scene. Mother is always strict, out smiling gently next to the girl he loves. And then his mother's voice rang out warmly and tolerantly. "I chose the right person." First family meal after James' mother changed. The kitchen that day, filled with the aroma of sour soup and braised fish in clay pot. Ly Tu Diep's dishes according to the taste of the countryside. James helps pick vegetables. And your mother, who has never set foot in a kitchen in years, sit back and work. Pick bunches of herbs, according to the instructions of the future daughter-in-law. "Mom, can I eat spicy food?" "Just a little, but if you cook I will eat it all." She smiled softly, I know the simple saying, but made Ly Tu Diep's heart skip a beat. OT because sad, but is touched by a mother who once kept a prisoner. How open enough to say it with trust. When setting the dinner table, sitting in the middle, holding Ly Tu Diep's hand with his left hand. Right hand pours water for mother. "Goodbye, Mom, this is the meal I have been dreaming of for a long time." He said softly, "Stupid boy, if your mother glares at you with love, You must keep this meal for life. Oh, just dream of living." Ms. Ly Tu Diep looked at both of them, the dearest people in her new life, then bowed slightly. She promised in her heart, despite the past, but she will live well for the present and the future. Ms. Ly Tu Diep. That night, James and the whisper. That night when the moon was shining quietly through the bedroom window. James lay next to Ly Tu Diep and gently stroked her hair. He whispered as if speaking to his whole heart, "Mom, do you know when you put the bracelet on me, I almost cried. All my life I just hope that my mother and the person I love can hold hands together. Go with me. Oh, it's coming true, Mom." Ly Tu Diep gently touched his chest where his heart was beating. "I used to be afraid. I used to think I was not worthy. But thanks to you, I was brave enough to be true to myself." As he held her tight in his arms. "OT, whether I deserve it or not. Is fate want you to come to me when I—" A letter, a silent gift from Mother James. The next morning, Ly Tu Diep woke up, saw a handwritten letter on the table. Is James's mother. Ly Tu Diep. Thank you for not giving up on James when he was lost. Thank you for not leaving when I said you were not worthy. Maybe because I have lost in life I am afraid. Afraid James will choose the wrong person. But now we see clearly. You are the one that fate sent to heal it and us. Uncle, don't call me uncle anymore. Call me Mom because now I am your daughter, Uncle." And at the end of the story, a new beginning. In a pristine morning, the sound of the piano came from the backyard. James hugged the guitar while Ly Tu Diep leaned his head on his shoulder. His mother brought tea and sat down next to him. Look at two young people, with eyes filled with both faith and love. BA doesn't need a grand wedding for, doesn't need a gorgeous wedding dress. Just a love that never gives up. A faith turned back from the wound. And a family that knows how to open their hearts is enough to call happiness. Ly Tu Diep, the ancient person, returns. On a chilly autumn afternoon, when the yellow leaves fall all over the porch, a gray car stopped in front of the villa gate. Ly Tu Diep was making tea for James' mother when the bell rang. Ms. Ra opened the door and stood there, stunned. He is the man who used to be her husband. He is thin and weathered, but the eyes still carry a bit of arrogance. OT because of love, but because of the feeling of possession once had. Ly Tu Diep, you are still as beautiful as the day I left. Ly Tu Diep clenched his fists and spoke calmly. What are you doing here to get me back? He said without hesitation, then he was wrong. I lost you, then I know you are important. Ly Tu Diep, James's reactio. James walked out the door just in time. His eyes were cold as he looked at that man. Oh, need to ask, I know who it is. Ly Tu Diep is not something you can take back. James stepped in front of Ly Tu Diep. She is the one I love now, and I will not let anyone hurt her, a guy. Ex-husband smirked. You think you understand her? She used to cry at my feet and beg me not to leave. Ly Tu Diep was silent. The past like a dagger that seemed to have been buried, now dragged into the light. I turned around and held her hand. Maybe she was weak, but the person standing here today is a strong Ly Tu Diep. And I love her not because she is perfect, but because she overcame everything to become herself. I love you. That night Ly Tu Diep faces the past. That night Ly Tu Diep sat silently by the window, tears rolling down her face. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed when you know I was weak, was abandoned without a word of goodbye. When at night James pulled her into his arms. Don't apologize for being hurt. I love you, not the past Versio, but you of today. And if we have to face the past to protect the present, I will do it with you. James' mother spoke up again. She came to Ly Tu Diep. Give her a purple handkerchief. Mother once thought a person was broke, will not bring happiness to his soul. But today Mom saw sigh. Oh, one brave. Feel more than someone who has fallen, but still stands up to love you, a guy. Mother and child do not need to forget the past. Just believe in the present. And mom, believe me, you say goodbye to your ex and goodbye. Husband finally understood the way Ly Tu Diep looked at James. Is the eyes of one who has found the world. He left without saying goodbye. OT because he lost, but because he knows this place. Oh, more room for the man of the past.